We're going to get started with Todd Lamb, and we're just going to go back and forth, and we'll get the names and we'll get going here. Thank you all for coming.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Lamb. It's a pleasure to be in Guthrie, in Logan County, representing Davis. I've seen you in a while. It's great to see you again, sir. Pleasure. Mr. Chairman, thank you for today. Todd, thank you for being here. It's always great to be with Todd Tucker. My name's Todd Lamb. I'm from Enid, Oklahoma. I'm running for governor because I'm frustrated. Like you, I've been engaged for a while in this process. Like you, I've knocked doors for conservative candidates. I've voted for conservative candidates. I've written small checks for conservative candidates, put yard signs out for conservative candidates. I got elected to the state senate. We were in the minority. Next 2 years of my service in the state senate, we had a tie of 24 R's and 24 D's. That was less fun than it sounds. And my last 2 years in the state senate, we got the majority. Now we've arrived at super majority status in the House and the Senate. Entire executive branch, colored red. I'm running for governor because I'm frustrated. We have a super majority, and we have not had super ideas. We have not had super conservative ideas. We've not governed that way. Many have campaigned that way, but we've not governed that way. Not enough. So here's my plan for Oklahoma. Some of you know my background in law enforcement. I'm a former special agent with the U.S. Secret Service. Let me just pause right there and say I served in the Secret Service in the Clinton and the Bush administrations. If I was willing to take a bullet for Bill Clinton, imagine how hard I'll work for you as governor. Now let me get back. My point in the Secret Service was I'd have a plan with everything I did. Every protection assignment had a detailed plan and a backup plan. Much of the mire that we are in Oklahoma is because we've had no plan. Now in 5 minutes it's hard to go through my entire agenda. Proverbs 29 says, where there's no vision, the people will perish. Another version says, where there's no vision, the people will be scattered or confused. That's why it's important to have a plan. And here's my 5-point plan to renew Oklahoma. I'll go through it very quickly. R-E-N-E-W. R, reform and restructure state government, starting with the budget process. It's antiquated, out of date, and it does not work. We'll reform the budget process, starting with the session. We'll keep a 4-month session. First month will be policy only. The last 3 months, no policy, budget only. And we'll finally get to zero-based budgeting in Oklahoma with my plan. We'll reform Medicaid. We have 4 million Oklahomans, 1 million are on Medicaid in Oklahoma. 1 out of 4. That's a significant challenge. It's a greater challenge when you think about the birth rate of Medicaid in Oklahoma. Last year, over 52% of all our babies in Oklahoma were born on Medicaid. That's like a hockey stick on the graph. That's unsustainable growth in Medicaid. We have too many working age, able-bodied men and women on Medicaid in Oklahoma. We'll reform that. And lastly, as governor, we will address, redress, and examine the $8.9 billion in giveaways we have in Oklahoma. Budget reform, education reform. I'm for a teacher pay raise. My wife teaches just down the road at Cashion Public School, 5th grade. I'm passionate about a teacher pay raise when it is cloaked and coupled with reform. Last year, of all the high school graduates, 40% had to be remediated when they went to college. 40%. And that issue doesn't come up in 11th grade history or 10th grade geometry. It starts much earlier. That's why as governor, I'll propose and lead the charge for reform in the 3rd grade. Before 3rd graders in Oklahoma get out of the 3rd grade, they must be able to read at the 3rd grade level. Because our 3rd graders in Oklahoma must be smarter than Texas 3rd graders. They must be. Our 3rd graders must be smarter than Chinese 3rd graders. In addition to reading reform, before kids get into the 3rd grade in Oklahoma, they must be able to do 3rd grade math. And a lot of big reforms in our country or in our state, there are titles on reforms. I've got a title for this reform. We will call it the Pro 4th Grade Teacher Act. Because right now we put 3rd graders in the 4th grade, they can't read or do math. Let me finish by saying we're going to diversify our economy, have a 77-county focus, and create opportunities for the next generation. Visit VoteToddLamb.com. Stop back here. I'll make you a deal. Since you guys came out on a Saturday morning, this is the deal I'm going to make you. All day long, bumper stickers are free at the Lamb for Governor booth. God bless you and thank you. Let's renew Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Let's give it up again. His name is Todd, so he's got to be a pretty cool guy, right? I'm one D, he's two Ds. He stole my D, so just understand, I'm a D short. He's got the double Ds there going on. Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next candidate. You know him well. You've probably seen him on TV at one time or another back in his broadcast days. And then he got smart in this, well, I don't know, broadcasting and politics, but sometimes they can go hand in hand. And in this case, a very talented TV guy decided to become the mayor of Oklahoma City and has led the city in great growth and continuing the MAPS project. And he now wants to be your next governor. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Mick Cornett.
Thank you, Todd. It's good to be back in Guthrie, and even getting a smattering of applause is appreciative, because I remember there were a couple of guys from Oklahoma City who came here once, stole the state seal, and ran off with it. So that wasn't me. Want that clear? But it's always good to be back, and I can't tell you how many games I've covered at your sports arenas and seen the Blue Jays do so well through the years. Quite a sports powerhouse. As running for governor, my priorities are health and education. I think we've got to invest in our state's infrastructure. I want to see us diversify the economy statewide like we have in Oklahoma City. In Oklahoma City, since I've been mayor, we've been fortunate enough to help the private sector create nearly 100,000 jobs, nearly 10,000 new businesses, and we're creating jobs in a new economy for a new century. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for Oklahoma going forward. As I travel the state, I see a lot of enthusiastic people who were upset at the state legislature, but still feel very, very invested in Oklahoma and its future, and that's good to see. We only get 5 minutes, but I've got to tell you, when I was a sportscaster, I usually got 4.5, so I'm grateful for that extra 30 seconds. I want to finish with the best part of my presentation, that is introducing my wife, Terry. Terry, would you stand? Thank you. Thank you. As we have traveled the state now, we've had campaign events in all 77 counties. We've both had people cry on our shoulders because they're so upset and disappointed with the culture at the state legislature. All politics all the time. Republicans have to be back in a governing mode going forward. Nothing wrong with the Republican Party, but we're going to have to govern. We're going to continue to grow. Thank you for what you're doing here. Our table is over there. We have yard signs. We have other opportunities for you to volunteer and be a part of our campaign. We'd love to have you be a part of it as we get closer and closer to the June date and then on to November. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. You've heard from Lieutenant Governor Lamb and Mayor Mick Cornett, both names that you know well. Another guy that you probably know pretty well. You're on Facebook Live all the time, and you'll remember the catchy jingle that's running on the radio right now that gets stuck in people's heads. But from Tulsa, Oklahoma, a great attorney. You served under President Reagan, correct? And I did want to say, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, I would have been willing to take a bullet for Bill too, but I noticed that you didn't mention Hillary, and I would have probably ducked. There's only so much of an obligation that you should have. Right? Yeah. Well, I understand it's an oath, but you can just say something happened and I had to tie my shoe, and oops. Anyway, it's my pleasure now to introduce to you a man who is no stranger to Oklahoma. You know him well over his stance on the turnpikes. Let's give a big, warm Guthrie, Oklahoma welcome to Gary Richardson.
Thank you very much, and it's good to see you folks this morning. What a crowd this early in the morning in Guthrie, and folks from all over the state. First thing I want to say, and I want you to take this home with you today, Oklahoma is not a poor state. I'll say that again. Oklahoma is not a poor state. Oklahoma is a state with poor leadership. We can display that in a number of ways. If you go to my website, GaryRichardson.org, we have a kitchen table plan, for example. And it shows you on there that if we would do a Medicaid audit, and I understand the bill was just placed before the legislature this last week, we've been talking about it for over a year, that we could probably save, according to OCPA numbers, $86.5 million a year. We are not a poor state. We're a state with poor leadership. Arkansas last year did an audit on their Medicaid. They took 80,000 people off the road that did not qualify. 4,100 because they were in prison. Go figure. 25,000 because they were registered. They were registered in more than one state on the Medicaid roll. Again, my name is Gary Richardson. I'm a former State Assistant Insurance Commissioner for the state of Oklahoma. I'm a former state prosecutor from Muskogee, Oklahoma, and I'm a former U.S. attorney appointed by President Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan entrusted me to do something about the corruption in the county commissioner scandal. I'm asking the folks of Oklahoma to entrust me to do something about the corruption in state government. I got a call yesterday. We have Facebook Friday where we talk about all the issues. I got a call from the county commissioner because we were talking about some of the challenges. He said, I need to come to see you. You won't believe what's going on today. So I've got an appointment with him Monday. But I tell you what, my friends, as I travel the state and I hear about all the things that are going on, it's mind-boggling. Also, on our kitchen table plan, you will see how for a year now, right at a year, we've been showing how we could give teachers a $3,000 raise without raising taxes. I say raising taxes, my friends, is not the answer to solving the problem that we're in today. Amen. Raising taxes only helps cover up the problem. That's right. Listen to me. Raising taxes only helps cover up the problem. It is not the solution. Got awfully quiet in here. Good. You know, someone the other day said, Gary, you're just angry. I said, you know, I think it's time we have a governor that's angry about what's going on in our state. What do you think? Amen. It's about time we had a governor that's angry about what's going on. I was in Porter recently. A fellow and his wife came up to our booth to get some material, and I went over to shake his hand. He said, I don't want to shake your blankety blank hand. I won't fill in the blanks. He said, you will be just like all the rest of them. You will make all these promises, and you won't do a blankety blank thing about it. I took a step closer to him and I said, sir, I would like for you to look me in the eyes and tell me that it's your opinion that I'm lying when I'm saying the things I will do if I become governor. He said, get out of my face. I stood there, he backed up a step, and I said, sir, you need to deal with your anger. So he turned and left. About 30 minutes later, he came back. I could tell he wanted to talk. He said, I'm ready to talk. He said, I'm a Republican, but I'm frustrated. I said, I understand that. That's why I'm out here today, seeking a job I do not need. And folks, I'm not looking for a career in politics. I'm looking to do one thing, and that's turn this state around. And he said, I'm frustrated. And I said, so am I. And I said, I need your help. And he said, you've got it. That's what folks are wanting today, is someone that will tell it the way they believe it to be, Some people say I tell it like it is, and I say no, we tell it the way we believe it to be. Sometimes we could be wrong, right? But I do believe that we can change things, and he tells me my time up and I've just gotten started. You sure you didn't shortchange me a minute or two? Thanks a lot, folks. It's great to be with you, and I appreciate your help. Todd, I didn't even get to talk about the turnpike.
I've been wondering where you stand on the turnpikes, Gary. I don't think anybody has any idea. One of the reasons that I'm a Republican is because not only are our ideas better, but our candidates are better. And if you look on this stage today, you see a group of gentlemen, any of which would make a great governor for the state of Oklahoma. Each of these men love their state, and they love the people of this state, and they are committed to making a better Oklahoma. And so one of the things that I would like to add, that I'd like to hear from the candidates, is about criminal justice reform, because it's badly needed in our state. And that will help with our budget crisis a lot as well. A man that knows a lot about the budget, somebody that's been my friend since the beginning of my show a year ago. Before I even knew he was running for governor, he was coming on and speaking as state auditor. And I have a lot of respect for this man. He loves this state, and he's worked hard and has been a great state auditor. Please join me in welcoming Gary Jones.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you. Let me introduce my wife. She's the one filming out here. In June, we'll be married 41 years. She also doubles as my driver in my security detail, and I will tell you that she makes some very good oatmeal craisin cookies back on the desk there. Also, there's another lady here that is dear to my heart, is Janine Long. And Janine Long was the chairman of the Federation of Republican Women when I became chairman in 2004. And collectively, we worked together to build majorities in the House and the Senate. And like a lot of people, I'm frustrated with what's going on. In fact, I've been talking about it. I feel like I've been the lone voice now for 7 years, standing up and saying what you're doing is wrong. I hear now people talking about let's do more and more audits. Where have you been? We've been trying to do them, but the legislature's been blocking us every step of the way. And what we've done is we've run the most cost-effective, efficient agency in the state, reduced the size of our office, size of our budget, and done it very cost-effectively and efficiently. I've heard people talk about draining the swamp, and I'm the first to tell you we need to drain the swamp. The difference is I know where the plug is at. We'll get it done. You know, I got frustrated with government back in 1994. And got involved. I've been an activist since then. The difference between me and many people that get elected, I haven't drank the Kool-Aid. I didn't join the fraternity. I've been the guy standing up for the people saying, what you're doing is wrong and we can do it better. I put out an op-ed years ago that said that we need to adopt needs-based budgeting in the state of Oklahoma. I get stopped in the hall one day and they said, great article in the Washington Times. I said, what are you talking about? I said, your quote about this article in the Washington Times. And what it said is Governor Fallon's auditor, Gary Jones, has proposed a needs-based budgeting formula, which is a modified version of zero-based budgeting in conjunction with performance audits. It's a great way to reduce the size of government, eliminate corruption and waste, which I've eliminated more corruption and waste in the state of Oklahoma in the last 20 years than anybody else. Anybody know the name Gene Stipe? We worked to bring down the last of the Gene Stipe empire, sent him and many of his compadres to prison. So anyway, I'm the guy that actually can walk in from day one and start making positive changes. With my business background, I've hired, I've fired, and I've managed many people through the years. I've never had a political hire since I've been in office. Every person I've hired is a capable, competent person. That's why we've been able to go from 120 people to 108 and get more work done with $1 million less spent. That's good government, that's smaller government. You know, I'm not the guy that's supported by the billionaires and millionaires. I'm dressed today with my sleeves rolled up because I'm leaving here to go help my grandson with his heifer at Oklahoma Youth Expo. You know, there's many people out here that I would call a show horse. Folks, I'm the workhorse. I'm the guy that gets down the trenches and gets things done. Anybody that knows me knows that. All my life I've been mission oriented. I went to work for Bell Telephone at 18 as a telephone operator. At 20 I was a manager over 120 operators. At 21 I was on state staff doing independent studies. studies. At 28, I started my own business with myself and a high school kid, built it up to 50 employees before I ever got involved in government. So I'm able to apply those business practices along with the fact I'm a certified public accountant. When people talk about the budget process, I'll be the one negotiating the budget, not somebody for me. I'll be the one sitting down telling them how it's done because I know how it's done. I've done budgets, I've managed budgets, and I've overseen budgets. We are the ones that caught the corruption at their health department. I can tell you what happened and why it happened. It's an accounting problem, it's a management problem, it's a systemic problem that we have in state government is the fact that we don't have professionals running state government, we have politicians. So what you need to do is elect a person that is a manager, somebody that truly understands and somebody that will be in there working for you, not just be a figurehead. I'd love to have your support. It's going to take grassroots efforts to win this, and we've got a lot of people. And every time I've been somewhere and talked, people come to me and said, you know what, I came here supporting somebody else. In fact, one gentleman came up to me and said, I am so confused. I said, well, why are you confused? I came here strongly supporting another candidate. But I'm leaving here supporting you because you actually make sense. You understand what the problem is. I'm the one person that actually put out a plan that's more conservative than what the Republican House and Senate put out that would have given teachers a pay raise, that would have solved the problem. The problem is the politicians won't take it up. If they do that, then what we can do is give the teachers a reasonable pay raise, give state employees a pay raise, and also build into our retirement fund formula where we give retirees a reasonable cost of living increase because they earned it. Folks, my name is Gary Jones. I'm running for governor because I want to work for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. I don't think there's anybody else up on stage here that's going to be dealing with the heifer today, so you win the prize on that one. Next up is a man who's very well respected throughout our state. He believes in the right to life, just as I do. One of the great presidents, Ronald Reagan, used to talk about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and as you know, life is the first word in that. You can't have liberty and the pursuit of happiness without life. So very outspoken on the pro-life movement in Oklahoma. Please welcome Dan Fisher.
Thank you so much. It's my privilege to be here. Because our time is short, I've written my comments down. I don't normally do that, so let me just begin. My wife Pam and I have been married for 37 years. We have 2 children, 3 grandchildren, 1 on the way. She and I were both school teachers for a number of years, grew up in western Arkansas. I became a full-time pastor when I was 24. I'm a full-time pastor today. While I was serving as full-time pastor, I served in the Oklahoma House from 2012 to 2016. Let me tell you, I could have been elected to a 3rd term. I walked away disgusted at the hypocrisy I saw in our own party. Frankly, I am incredibly frustrated with the Republican Party. The one thing I could always count on in the legislature is the Democrats would stand up for their principles, but unfortunately Republicans, I never know where they were going to land, and normally they landed exact opposite of what they said they believed and what I suspect they campaigned on. Now, I've been a Republican all my adult life, and we have a great party platform. Problem is, we don't do it. So I would suggest that we may seem more interested in being in power than we are in actually defending the principles we say we believe. So we either need to abide by our party platform or put it in the paper shredder. Oklahomans are weary of Republicans who campaign as conservatives and govern as moderates. Now let me give you an example. For example, we say we believe in small government, but in the last 10 years, we've increased government spending in this state by $3.83 billion. Now, I don't call that shrinking, I call that growing. I am actually a Republican who believes in small government, and if I'm elected as governor, I'll shrink it down to its proper core functions. Now, we Republicans claim that we want to stop abortion, but during the past 8 years, the number of abortion clinics in this state has doubled. I am running as an abolitionist. I believe it's time for decent Oklahomans to stand up and end the Holocaust of abortion. We murder over 5,000 babies in Oklahoma every year. Now, some in this race are saying that there's no real difference between pro-life and abolition. It's just simple semantics. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. George Soros' right-wing watch and People for the American Way sure don't think it's just semantics, because they viciously attacked me yesterday for being an abolitionist. Now, why am I the only candidate on this stage being attacked by leftists if there's no difference in being pro-life or being an abolitionist. It's because they know that there's a huge difference and that I'm going to shine the light on their evil ways if I become governor. Now, most pro-life politicians do not intend to outlaw abortion. I've learned this, and they'll actually fight those who try to do it. They believe we should continue nipping around the edges by heavily regulating it. So we've been doing that for 45 years. What has it produced? I can tell you, over 60 million dead babies. Now, some of my opponents say that there's nothing we can do about this. We must bow to the federal courts. Apparently they believe we're no longer governed by the consent of the governed according to the Declaration, but we're governed by the consent of the courts. One of the candidates even believes that the Bible demands slavish submission to the federal government, even if doing so violates God's law or our Bill of Rights. So let's say that the Supreme Court outlaws guns. We're supposed to obey that? Were people like Daniel the prophet and the apostles wrong when they defied the governments of their day? Were the abolitionists of the 1850s wrong when they defied the law to help runaway slaves? Were Oscar Schindler and Corrie ten Boom and her family wrong when they defied the Nazi power to save Jews? So is there no line in the sand? Is there no higher law than the federal government? Yes, it's God's law. So I believe that it is time to assert Oklahoma's state sovereignty, do what's right, concerning a whole host of issues, not just the life issue. The states were sovereign at our founding, and I believe they still are. I can find no official document where we ever surrendered our sovereignty. So it's this simple. Either the states matter or they don't. Either we, the people, are the final authority in our representative republic, or then we are truly just ruled by Washington, D.C. It's one or the other. So it's time to stop talking a good talk, return to our core principles, and actually do them instead of compromising once we get into power. Guys, Oklahomans deserve that. They deserve that. So if that's the kind of candidate that you want, then guys, I'm your man. If not, vote for one of these other men on the stage. My name is Dan Fisher. Go to our website, fisherforgovernor.com. If you want to know what we're really about, we're about all kinds of things. Check it out. I'll be right here at the table. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you, and I pray that God can bless Oklahoma. Thank you.
And finally, I introduce a man that I've known for a long time, but didn't realize I've known him for a long time. I worked for a group of radio stations in Tulsa. He had an office on the same floor as the radio stations, and when he first announced he was running for governor, I thought, you know, this guy looks familiar. Well, then we realized in a recent meeting that we rode the same elevator together every day. Little did he know that I was going to be a radio guy that would be talking about politics someday, and I had no idea that he would be running for governor someday. So what a small world it is. But this guy is a successful Tulsa businessman, and by the way, we took over part of your suite when you moved out and moved into New Dig. So. Thank you for leaving it in great shape for us. Please welcome Kevin Stitt.
Thank you guys so much for having us today. And it is really fun for me to travel the whole state. I've been to all 77 counties, and like Todd said, getting reacquainted with everybody. It feels like we're 1 degree connected to the entire state. I'm texting buddies now with Toby Keith, and I'm like, yes, Toby Keith. Yes, it's fun. So anyway, Toby's a little cooler than you, Todd, but anyway, I'll just tell you my story. I'm not a politician. I grew up in Norman. My dad was a pastor there at Riverside Church, was there for 30 years, and then I went to school in Stillwater, so I went to Oklahoma State. Okay, there, I usually get a Go Pokes there, or I get, oh, I'm sorry, you couldn't get into OU. There we go. But it's a great rivalry. Went to OSU, got an accounting degree. Kind of a unique part about my story, the way I paid my way through college was I sold books with the Southwestern Company. And it's a door-to-door sales job, great sales training. I came back after my first year, recruited all my college buddies, all my buddies from OU. By the time I graduated from college, I had 50 college kids working for me. So it was my first experience of kind of leading a sales organization. I found out I loved working with my friends. I was really entrepreneurial, wanted to have my own business. So then I moved to Tulsa, met my wife Sarah. We've been married, it'll be 20 years in May, and we have 6 children. From 17 down to 4, 3 boys and 3 girls. So then I moved to Tulsa, got into the mortgage business. I started my company, Gateway Mortgage Group, with $1,000 in a computer. Today, now we employ more than 1,200. We have offices all over the country, about 165 offices. We do business in 40 states. We have a division that buys loans from banks and credit unions, and then we service everything. So you're a customer for life with us. So that's just been my whole world the last 18 years. It's all been about hiring people smarter than me, putting them in the right positions, leading, setting the vision and the strategy. So why am I running for governor? Like a lot of these guys up here said, I'm frustrated. I travel to Texas all the time to visit our offices there. I go to Arkansas and Colorado and Tennessee, and I just see all this momentum and job creation and positivity and growth coming out of all these other markets. And I come back to Oklahoma, the state that I love, that I grew up in, and I'm raising my family, and I just feel like we're down in the dumps a little bit. We had a negative 3% growth compared to all the states around us growing. We're going to 4-day school weeks trying to save money. We've got this budget nightmare. Then I look at who's running for governor, and it looks like more of the same. It just looks like the career politicians running for their next election. So I want to take off from my company, go serve my state, and get us growing again. And I want to focus on the next generation, not the next election. And too often, our politicians are so worried about this industry or this special interest group or this area that they won't make the right decision for all 4 million Oklahomans. So that's why I'm doing it. And I believe it's the leader of the company's job or the leader of the state's job to set the vision and put the plan together, hire the right people that goes and executes on it. So at our company, we have a plan to be a top 10 lender. And I have the same vision for our state. I think we can be a top 10 state. I think we can be top 10 in growth, education, infrastructure. All right? How do you do that? I've got 5 pillars I lead my company with. I think about leading the state the same way. You need a growth plan, education, health, infrastructure, and efficiency. So those are my 5 big pillars. Listen, folks, running state government is more like running a business than anything. We have a $22 billion state budget. All right, we only get to appropriate about $6.5 billion. It's a very small portion. It'd be like you running your personal budget and only having control over 25%. We need more control over the entire budget with line item budgeting. It takes a long time to learn how to hire the right people. We have 120 different state agencies in state government. We need to have a business person know how to run those efficiently and effectively and hire the right people to put the performance metrics in place. I have 25 cost centers at my company. I've been balancing budgets my whole career. I know how to get that stuff done. I want to touch on criminal justice because Todd asked me to do that, or asked us to do that. I've been in the private sector, and I've been raising my family, growing my company. I thought all bad people were in prison. Let's keep them there. But as I'm getting involved, I look at everything in market. Market to me is what the 6-state footprint around Oklahoma does. No, we have to pay our teachers what market is. We need to do everything according to market. All right, last point here. My time's up. So basically, we're #1 in female incarcerations. That's not market. We're sticking out like a sore thumb. We have to have criminal justice reform because they're asking for $1 billion more to build new prisons, and we just don't have good outcomes there. So we want to be tough on crime, but we've got to be right on crime as well. So thank you. I want to be your next governor because I want to focus on the next generation, not the next election. My name's Kevin Stitt. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. You can go ahead and go back to your booth if you like, where people can have a chance to come and speak with you all. I appreciate what you're doing.